Welcome to the tutorial to teach you how to enter your FERPA authorization information. You'll notice we're on the Montreat website, montreat.edu. We'll go to Current Students. No matter what campus you are a part of, you will find a link to the Student Information System, and it takes you to the same place, which is right here. This will be your regular Montreat student information that you use for email and such. You'll see you can do multiple things from this site. Grades, get an unofficial transcript, see your schedule. We're going with FERPA authorization. FERPA stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's basically a federal law to help protect your identifying information and give you the power over who receives information about you as a student. You have several options, and we want to know what your preferences would be. Our default at Montreat is that we will share your directory information with those outside of the college, if they choose it, and if it seems to be reasonable to us. So if we aren't sure who's calling, we don't have to give them any information about you. But if it's a servicer of a loan or an employer, someone like that who wants to know if you were enrolled, we will share that information unless you've requested that we do not do so. Directory information is included here. You can see it includes your name, your address and phone number, your major, what degree you're pursuing, when you were last here, when you graduated, that type of thing. Non-directory information includes more identifying pieces such as grades and GPA, your social security number, billing information. We will not share that with anyone other than those you've given us the right to share it with, and that's part of what this process is about. So for instance, if you maintain a list, that's where you are choosing people that you want us to share information with. So for instance, it could be a parent, it could be an employer who's helping to pay for your college, it could be a spouse, someone that you want to have your information should they need to request it. It would also include yourself, and we'll get to that in a moment. Directory only, like I said, is our default. And so if you do nothing, that's the one that will pop up. But we prefer students to go in and at least maintain a list with themselves on it. You can decline to have anyone receive any information, even saying that you are enrolled as a student. However, this should only be chosen due to safety concerns. The reason I say that is this can get difficult for some students. For instance, in this example, we couldn't share your graduation status with a potential employer who called to make sure that you really had graduated from Montreat College. And we wouldn't want something like that to be a hindrance for you. So that's why it's only in rare instances when people actually need to decline any information being shared about them. Revoking all is just meaning you can start this process all over again, and whatever people you may have listed will just disappear. And you could start all over. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, feel free to contact the registrar's office and we can talk more about FERPA with you. So I've been talking about FERPA for a long time, so I decided to start over with how we got to that page. Montreat College, current students, your student information system, because you don't go to that very often. Logging in as your regular student information. FERPA authorization. Now you have to log in again. This is the part I didn't show you before. Again, it's your student information, just like you would do for email. You have to click this login directly and wait a moment. This page takes a minute to come up. And that brings us back to our FERPA selection. I was logged in the first time, so we didn't show you that part. So, if we declined, we'd have to delete the names already because there's some on there, but it would tell us that we had declined, or you could choose directory only. We're going to make a list. Jessica Langston has allowed us to use her as the student example, and she has already made a list. You can see she's put her spouse on there, her father, and herself. We're encouraging all of our students to put themselves, like I mentioned before. It's important, if you came in, we could see a driver's license or some form of identification to prove that you are yourself. However, if you call us on the phone, we can't prove that you are who you say you are. So we need to have some type of way to prove that. That's what this personal identification phrase, or this PIP, is all about. So Jessica put me on there, assuming that others wouldn't realize that's what she would choose. And so if Jessica called and said, hey, I'm away from my computer, but I need to know the score that I got in that class, could you tell it to me? If I said, okay, well, what's your PIP, or your personal identification phrase, and she told me that it was ME, me, then I would say, okay, so you are Jessica, and I can give that information to you. Similarly, for her husband, if he called to say, I'm filling out a reference form for Jessica, and it requires her GPA when she graduated, then I could look at this and say, okay, well, what's Matt Langston's PIP, or personal identification phrase? And he would say dark wolf. That's because Jessica came up with these herself when she added each person. They could all be the same, they could each be different as they are here, and it can be a word or a phrase, something that is easy for the person to remember, and this is important, something that is not associated with any passwords that you would use. These are not passwords, because any Montreat College staff member who needs to look up your FERPA authorization list in order to know whether to share your information with the caller, or even if somebody walks in, because if Matt Langston walked in, even with identification, we'd still have to know if Jessica had given him permission to receive her information or not. And so we would still be asking him for the PIP. So because staff members can see this, we don't want it associated with your passwords in any way. So this is something that would be unusual enough that not everybody would know what it was, but not so unusual that you use it for a password. Hopefully that makes sense. So, if we want to add yet another person to her list, let's say her employer is going to help reimburse her for a course, and so we need to know how well she did in the course before we'll pay for it. So I'm her employer, and we'll use Montreat is great. Of course it is, but not everybody would put that as their PIP. And then I'm acting on Jessica's behalf here, so it would be Jessica putting this in. And the revision date would be today's date. And I believe you need all the characters for the date. And then we would just click Add New here. And this would join her other list of people that she has authorized to receive the non-directory information. And that's all there is to it. Once we've added this new name, we could log out and we're all set to go. If you have any questions, like I said before, please contact us at the registrar's office and we'll be happy to go over this information with you. Thank you for doing this process. It really does help us in making sure that your identity is protected, as well as getting vital educational information out there to those who do need it. Thanks again.